Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 198 of Empty Betters. I'm your host today, Nick Manella. No Harry with us. Unfortunately, he is traveling internationally, so best wishes to him. But I'm going to go ahead and toss it across the screen to my co-host up in Wisco, Mac Vogel. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, we're back for hard to believe we're at 198 already. That's crazy. We got the big 200 approaching rapidly. Hopefully we'll have something special on deck for that. But yeah, as always, good to be here. We still got a jam-packed epi for you here with some final notes and thoughts before the All-Star break here. Hard to believe we're at that point of the NHL season already too.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really been flying by, as has this first month of 2024. But it's just nuts to think that this hockey season is basically already more than half over and we're gearing up for the playoff push and the trade deadline
Yep.
here. It's just bonkers to think about.
It's crazy because you're starting to see the reports on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff of teams like basically about to like make their final decision if they're like a buyer or seller or whatever, and you're like, damn, we're already doing that. But it's true. Like some teams can pretty much already look at the standings and the schedule ahead and go, I think I know what our fate is, or at least have a pretty decent idea of what their chances are. So
That's really
um,
true. And I think there's also a couple teams that might need to flip a coin to decide
there are
what their future
there are a
is.
lot of teams that still definitely don't know yet. So that's fair, and it's like that every year. But it does seem like this year, especially, there are some teams that are like, God, what the hell are you? Like, are you
Have
a
you seen
playoff team or what?
yeah, have you seen all the stuff that they're calling this like the worst goaltending year in NHL history?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know you and me and Harry were talking about over the weekend, like Stuart Skinner's numbers as of late, and just because it's been such a weak goalie year, where we're like, fuck, could this guy take home the Vezina just because he's had
Honestly,
like a good stretch of 10 or 15 games? Like that might be all it takes at this point. I don't
it
know.
might be enough. I honestly don't really know if anyone wants to win that trophy this year. It just seems like they don't. But
My buddy Matt, who's in our fantasy league, he I think I've mentioned him before. Kind of a
what's his full
casual.
name?
Matt Stafford,
Yeah.
actually. Yep. The not the famous one, but he actually, you know what? If he's listening, shout out because he just got engaged. So congrats to him on
Oh,
that.
there you go.
But other than that, what I was gonna say is this is his first year doing fantasy hockey, and he's a hockey fan, but he hasn't like really focused on it this much in a long time. And like a couple months into the season, he was texting me being like, he was like, dude, I can't figure out like what to do with goalies. It seems like he was like, it seems like you should just never start a goalie because he was
Yeah.
like getting hosed all the time. And I was like, dude, you're not alone. Most of us are like losing points like weekly on goalies. So it really has been tricky. But
And shout out to our league that has been getting more and more competitive every year, and it's the biggest it's
mm-hmm.
ever been this season. So the waiver
Jeff.
wire for goaltenders is, what
Yeah.
you see is what you get, I feel like is the best way to put that.
Yep. On any given night, you can have Elvis, you can have UPL, or occasionally you can snag like Anthony Stolars, and that's about as
Yeah.
good as it gets.
Yeah. And you should feel that chill up your spine when Max said UPL because it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, I think you have a little question of the day for us.
I do. So this was actually we were talking about this right before the show, me and Nick, and thought why not just save it for the QOTD. But basically, what the question is, what is the threshold money wise that it would take for you to go and see like game 7 of the Stanley Cup finals with your favorite team in it,
At
um
home,
at
like,
home, and
Like, how much are you willing to drop?
Yeah, and I guess we're gonna have to have a couple clarifications because you made a good point when you first brought it up of like, all right, what's like my salary? Like, how much are we
Right.
talking? Like, I don't know how to set those parameters. I guess I would say if you're listening, following along at home, just kind of treat it as like your normal
You're
situation.
you.
Whatever, yeah, you're you, whatever you got going on right now, that's what you're dealing with. And I guess I'd say usually there's a way that you can like set up payment plans for those kind of things, right?
Sure.
Like, if it's fucking 5K for a ticket or something like that, you don't have to like pay that all at once. I think usually there's like some sort of like,
I'm sure there's ways you can like check out with PayPal and do like the pay in 4 or something like
I
that.
think there's ways to do it in installments. I could be wrong, but we'll go ahead and kind of operate under the idea that you don't necessarily have to have that cash like on hand right away.
Correct.
So with that being said, do you have a number in mind?
I feel like I'm going to have to talk this through, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I feel like initially, like the reaction is like, I had to ask myself, like, Nick, would you pay $1,000 like as my starting point to see the Capitals Game 7 Stanley Cup final? And the biggest problem I had with this is, obviously with any sporting event, you're not guaranteed shit.
Yeah.
So I'm basically just burning $1,000 right off the bat. And
Right,
honestly,
right.
I think I'm going to do it.
I'm also willing to say I'm pretty sure I can comfortably agree that I would pay $1,000 to do it.
And that's just like me or you going to the game. I'm not going with anyone. It is
no,
one
yeah,
seat
right,
in the
right.
nosebleeds. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh man, it sucks so bad though if they lose. Like that you're right. That's like the risk you run of like, because let's say you stay home and they lose. That sucks. What sucks worse than that is they lost and you lost $1,000. Like there's no silver lining there of like, oh, but it was really cool to see. Like, no, I don't.
It's the epitome of a double-edged sword. You're gonna live by it and you're gonna die by it.
Yeah.
It's just, would you go to like, is $2,000 like too
I
much
was
for you?
about to say, jeez. I think I would do it. I think I would probably do it.
I think I would do too. I mean,
Any more than that is getting
is really, really like
saucy.
is really pushing it for me.
Coming
And
from a guy who could use a car right now, I'm starting to think like
yeah,
I could probably get a set of decent enough wheels for like
right.
2,500 or 3K, depending on if I'm buying it from a friend or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like anything above $2,000, we're just gonna end up looking at like the 5K question. Like, would you pay $5,000 to go to the game? And I could not do that. I could not
No,
spend $5,000 on potentially what would be
the worst night ever.
the worst night of my life. Let's be real.
Well, what sucks too is like that's just the price of admission. Like you're obviously still
Right.
buying stadium beers, and like if they win, you're going out boozing hard after probably. If they lose, you might
Probably
also be
boozing
doing
during
that.
to like,
Yeah, right.
be able to sit there and not throw up. But
That being said, like I think worst case scenario is it's like a fucking just 5-0 blowout loss or something, and you're
to
just
the
the whole
last Capitals
time.
game that we went to.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually been not obviously in the cup final, but I've been to a game 7 of round 1 where the Caps got domed by the Rangers, and
That was a painful one. That's
a lot of people left early. I did not. I sat there,
there you go.
took it in. I also didn't. I was not old enough to drive, so I didn't really have an option to go anywhere. But that's not the point. So
Yeah.
I think 2K. That's probably my limit.
I would probably bump it to like 2,500,
I
but
was gonna say sure if it's like
I'm really
at
not
that
going much
point.
higher than that.
I
And
agree.
a lot of it does come down to the fact that it's the Capitals in Game 7.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly that you're like this. There's a really like decent chance this blows up.
Yeah, there's a hard chance that one just goes absolutely south so fast. But anyways, let us know what you guys think. How much money would you spend to see your favorite hockey team in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final at home? let's go ahead and dive into some news for this episode. But before we do, I think Mac has a word from us from Brackish Life.
Yes, indeed. Let's just take a moment to talk about Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Alrighty, let's chat some hawk, huh?
Absolutely. So we have to get into, I would say, what was probably the most surprising news over the weekend. And I feel like this kind of went from 0 to 100 as these signings kind of do out of nowhere mid-season. But the Colorado Avalanche have signed Zach Parise to a 1-year deal, $825,000 cap hit. Obviously, you know, this guy's 39 years old, so they're looking to add some veteran presence into this locker room. You and I had very similar initial reactions to this deal. I'm curious your thoughts now that we've had a couple days to sit with this one.
It's definitely interesting. I don't know like if my brain is fully computing him in like an Avalanche sweater. That one feels a little weird to me, although he has been on a good handful of different NHL teams now. I'm still always going to think of him as a Devil. And then obviously long time with the Wild. And the Islanders briefly there at the end. I'm looking here. I'm trying to see. I didn't remember him playing last year. I thought he took a year off or something like that, but I guess he was fully on the lineup last year for the Isles. He played all 82 games, it looks like here, according to Elite Prospects. So
Yep.
Pretty productive year for him. Last year he had 34 points, 21 goals as a 38-year-old. I think that's pretty solid. Big offer in 6 playoff games, but you know, the Islanders don't be scoring goals, especially in the playoffs sometimes. So
they really don't be scoring goals in the postseason. We all know that.
Except for those years that they somehow made it to the Eastern Conference final. I don't know what was going on there, but even still, they were winning like 2-0. So
exactly. It was like 2000s playoff hockey.
I don't know. Basically, when it comes down to it, I definitely think this could be a home run in terms of like a third line grinder kind of guy. You're adding depth. It's definitely a locker room move too, right? Like you mentioned. Excuse me. Dude has been around the NHL. Let's see. What was his first year? You want to take a guess?
Parise?
Yeah.
I want to say like 08.
05, 06, actually.
What?
Yeah, first year with the Devils. Played 81 games that year too, so a hard launch right in. After Shattuck St. Mary, a little bit of University of North Dakota.
Yep.
Albany River Rats, 1 season in the AHL basically, and then
how many games in the A?
73 in the 04-05 season, and then bang, next season played 81 in the NHL.
So probably would have made the NHL with no lockout.
Yes, that's good point.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, he's been, I'd say, relatively durable. Like looking down the lineup here, there's not, I mean, obviously he had a little bit of time, I think it was with the Wild, he kind of had some injury trouble, but even still, it looks like the least amount of games he's ever played is like 42. Actually, okay. No, there was one season with the Devils in 2010, 2011. It looks like he was kind of out of commission pretty much the whole time.
And that's sort of been the book on this guy, is like amazing compete level, super talented, highly skilled, but the back half of his career has been just marred by injuries. Yeah. Like the time in Minnesota was not his best. And let's be real, he was operating at like 70% half that time.
Yeah, he never played 82 in Minnesota. But what's crazy is then 21-22 is his first year on Long Island. He played 82. Then last year played 82 again. So like, I don't know if he just figured it out, but yeah. And what the signing thing, like him not playing at the beginning of this year, was he just taking an intentional break, or was he recovering from another injury or something?
Honestly, I think it had to be a combination of playing for the Islanders, taking an intentional break, and recovering from an injury, just to,
and like deciding if he was going to hang them up or not, maybe.
Probably. And honestly, Zach Parise is now sort of in that conversation where Joe Pavelski is, where people are probably going to say like, guy most deserving to win a Stanley Cup that hasn't won a Stanley Cup. So he's probably sitting there going, all right, the New York Islanders are the New York Islanders right now. Where
Yeah.
can I go where I've got a legitimate kick at the can at this?
That's a good point. And I do be shitting on Colorado all the time, but I don't think that's like the worst decision. I think there's definitely a world where they figure it out and win another cup. But
No, and I mean we've talked about, in recent episodes about Gabe potentially coming back for the playoffs or prior to the playoffs where we thought
Right.
he was going to be done for the full season. So if they get him and Gabe back, I think that team is absolutely, and then, sorts out the goaltending problem. But
Yeah, I was gonna say the deadline is gonna mean a lot depending on what they do in goal, and that's gonna
but
mean a lot for a lot of
I
teams.
like the move, and I think you nailed it. It is definitely a locker room move, but like that's a locker room that could use a guy like that to,
Oh yeah.
look around and say, hey, in the postseason, everyone calm down. It's one game. Here's
Yep.
what we need to fix for the next one or the next period. Let's go out and do it. So
Yeah, the composure. I also think it could be I think he could be a good contribution on the ice too. So we'll see. But
I also
yeah.
fully expect this guy to end up in coaching or
Oh
broadcasting at
yeah,
some
he's
point.
just
Like he's
total
so
gamer.
freaking smart.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and move on to Patrick Laine. So it's not been the best year for Patrick. We've talked about that to start this season. He's been dealing with injuries, and he has now officially entered the player assistance program. So as I mentioned, he's missed significant time this year. He's only got 5 goals and 8 points in 17 games played so far, so not the best season for him. And GM Jarmo Kekalainen is apparently willing to listen to trade offers. I know it wasn't the most glorious exit for him from Winnipeg to come to Columbus. It's not gone very well in Columbus, I would say. Do you think he's sticking around here, or do you think this guy's on his way out? And obviously, before we say anything, we just want to wish Patrick the best and props to him for, recognizing there was a problem and taking time away from the game.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you said for sure. I've always been a Line A guy. Actually, I really like this player. I want to see him do well. From the jump, I never thought Columbus was a good fit for him. Not sure he's really found a good fit anywhere he's been, which is sad given how talented the guy is. I mean, he's got one of the best shots in the league when it comes down to it.
Easily top 3 one-timer, easily top 5 wrist shot.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree more. So I don't know. I definitely think it's from a fan perspective, just, eye test watching stuff. To me, it seems like it's probably in his best interest to find a new home once he gets stuff sorted out here. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess. That team is such it's not helping anybody to be on a cold streak and stick around that team right now. You're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice there, and I think he could really shine somewhere else, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that team's got a lot of star power that's just kind of like, why did we come here? You're looking at him and Goodrow and,
Yeah, man, that's such a
obviously,
head scratcher too.
obviously guys like Fantilli who get drafted high, that's just what you have to deal with. But,
yeah, and that'll be fine, I'm sure. Like, they're not going to be horrible forever, but
no, and I'm sure they're in the Metro, it's competitive, they'll rebuild and whatever. But I mean,
yeah, if you're Line A or Johnny Hockey, you're only getting older, and your prime of your career is either behind you already or will be soon. So it's like, yeah, clock's ticking. I think it's time for both of them. If I were either of them, I would want to start shopping around for sure.
I would too. And I think with Line A, he's a player where you're going to have to put that guy somewhere where he's going to be playing top 6. He's just not really one of those guys that you can stick on the third line to go out and make plays happen off the wall. And yeah, he's, decent size and, you talked about the shot, but where he's going to flourish is on your power play, on your first or second line. So,
yep.
Do you have a team that needs a scoring winger that comes to mind by any chance?
Yeah, that maybe has like about that much in cap room, like, with guys that we have on LTIR or
Just saying,
Yeah, who knows?
It's like putting together a puzzle and seeing a freaking corner piece staring at you. It's like, yeah, I'll start there.
The Caps hate Finns.
They do. They absolutely do.
Not sign Finnish players for whatever reason, but
how
I'd
difficult
take him in a heartbeat.
So, we've said we think he would be better off somewhere else. How difficult do you think it's going to be to move that 8.7 million cap hit with about 2.5 years left on it?
It's not appealing. There's not a lot of teams that have that space to begin with. It also is not appealing to spend that much and only get him for 2 years. It's probably going to have to be a cap retention situation where
It has to be.
they're going to have to probably almost cut that in half, or like at least get it down closer to like 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're probably even going to have to throw some stuff. They're probably going to lose whatever trade they make with
For
that.
sure.
No,
I think so.
That's just how you got to look at it now, whether you're willing to do that or whether you want to just keep him in purgatory for a couple more years and get nothing. I guess
I just like, I can't see him staying there unless he comes back next season and scores like 62 goals.
right.
It just doesn't make sense to me. And I also don't think anyone on the Columbus Blue Jackets is scoring 62 goals anytime soon.
Yeah.
No offense.
Probably not.
Let's go ahead and move on. The Rangers got some bad news. They lost forward Philip Hedl for the remainder of the 2023-24 season. He had been recovering from a concussion, was skating again, was getting ready to return, and I guess there was a setback in practice, collision, a tumble, whatever, needed help off the ice from the teammates. So they already have his like roughly $4.5 million cap shelved on LTIR. I would expect the Rangers to do something with that, especially with how the Bonino situation is going. You would think they would look for a replacement there. He did go unclaimed on waivers, so it sucks to see for Hedl because that's absolutely a guy that could help that Rangers team.
He's a good player, and I actually heard that this is really scary, but I heard that it was a non-contact setback, and anytime you hear that with like a head injury, that's like super serious. So definitely best wishes to him. Probably the right call to just take. I don't think there's any amount of time that's too much time for a head injury. So definitely the right call by him and the medical staff and whoever else to just be like, you know what? Nope, we're not even chancing this. Sit it out.
Take the year, buddy.
Yeah, literally take a year. We'll see where we're at in summertime or whatever. But yeah, that's scary. It's no joke. Hopefully the Rangers, like you said, will find a way to. Well, I don't want them to, but
me neither.
For their sake, hopefully they'll find a way to replace him, because he's kind of one of those guys where maybe you don't think about him that much as being like one of the best players on your team, but you notice him when he's not there.
Yeah,
so
it's like think like Caps Cup run Lars Eller.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
Let's go ahead and move on to the Flyers. They signed Owen Tippett to an 8-year, $49.6 million extension at 6.2 per. The 24-year-old has recorded 30 points in 46 games this season, and it has a career high 27 goals. How much of this contract was just because his hair matches the jersey?
In all seriousness, I think this is going to be a steal in like a year. Like literally, maybe it already is.
Might be the best Flyers like contract of all time.
I'd say I have a buddy who's like kind of into the Flyers now because he moved to Philly recently, and I was talking to him about it, and
is that a zone block scheme?
Yep, exactly. And I said extremely rare upper management Flyers W, which is essentially what it is. You're like, wow, they actually made a really smart move. Good.
Yeah, normally they don't.
No, never. So, but yeah, I mean, he's really good. I love watching him.
No, he's had an unreal year and obviously scored 2 basically highlight reel goals. One is maybe going to be goal of the year.
It could be
at the end of the season.
Be.
So
yeah,
dude has absolutely earned it. I know they also did re-up Ryan Poehling for a while. That's clearly been the missing piece. So shout out to the Flyers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
that one's more on par with.
Yeah, that one I was like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Do not adjust your screen. We're going to talk about the Oilers for a second. They did win their 16th straight. They move within 1 win of tying the NHL record. However, they're going to have to wait a full week to play that game.
And it's Vegas too.
And it's in Vegas against Vegas.
To me, even if it was like the Blackhawks or something, the streak is basically over. It's a different thing. Like a week plus later, that's not even the same. Like you're not carrying any of that momentum. In fact, I would make the argument in general, streak or not, Oilers or a different team, whatever. The NHL has 2 seasons within one. What happens before and what happens after the All-Star break are completely separate from each other. We've seen countless times over the years. Team good before All-Star break, team trash after All-Star break, or just the opposite. So that's kind of part of the fun of it. Coming back, starting fresh, and seeing if any of the shitty teams kind of turn it around, or if any of the hot teams kind of fall off. So yeah, it's an exciting time of the NHL season. I'm pumped for about a week from now to see how that all goes.
It's going to be great, and it's going to be like a marquee hockey game. I really do. Like, I hope they do it service with promoting it. Hottest team on the planet right now comes in to play the defending Stanley Cup champion, and we both know they won't. But here's my thing. Like, you and I are hockey fans. We follow our favorite hockey team and probably a decent amount of the players on social media, right?
Yep.
Do you have any idea what hockey players are doing right now with this week off? They're all golfing.
Yeah.
like they're all like in the Bahamas, they're in Puerto Rico, they're in Mexico,
exactly.
Or they're home with their wife and kids.
Yeah.
So they basically have a week off from the game, and they're going to have to come back on this Monday and play basically the biggest game of the season.
And so many of them too, like, have even more time. Like, if you're not going to take Ovi, for example, not going to the All-Star game, and the Caps played on Saturday afternoon, and that was their last game until after the break. So he probably was on the first plane. He might have flown out Saturday night or first thing Sunday morning and really milk all that extra time off. I know he's somewhere warm right now, hanging out with Wayne Rooney and company.
So cool.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, some of these guys have closer to like 10 days off when it's all said and done. So
I saw a bunch of the Caps players were in the Bahamas playing golf together. So nice. I assure you, no fun is being had on that trip whatsoever. But
yeah, I know my dad went down. My grandpa is a little bit of a snowbird. He'll fly to he'll drive actually to Florida for the winter from Chicago. He has a little condo down there that he stays in. So my dad, he's down there visiting him right now, and he sent me a pic just with his bare feet walking on the beach earlier today, and I was like,
stepping on the beach.
Kill for that right now.
But yeah.
Glad to see he gets some time away from it too.
Some well-deserved time away from it. That guy, he works real hard, that's for sure.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and move on to USA Hockey. They shook it up a little bit. They mandated neck protection for all players under 18. This rule will go into effect beginning August 1st, and that is to account for production delays and supply chain issues when it comes to producing the neck protection. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, probably the right move. Probably should have been done a while ago. I will say I'm pretty glad I'm not a youth hockey player right now, because those things are uncomfortable as heck, and also not stylish, which was a big deal to me when I was playing high school hockey. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm sure some players are, gonna bark about it and say it makes me look stupid or whatever, but hey, you can't look stupid if you're dead. So I'd rather be alive and look stupid personally.
Amen to that. That's for sure. I think this is fantastic. Like you said, it's not necessarily the trendy thing or, gonna go well with the player's style here, but it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think it may escalate to the point where we see the NCAA take this on at some point. Maybe we see,
it might be.
We continue to see it throughout, major junior hockey, but definitely a good move by USA Hockey. Hard to argue with that.
For sure.
Let's go ahead and move on to talk about the Kings, and we'll hop into our discussion portions of this episode. But before we do, we just want to let everyone know that these discussions are brought to you by Kane Footwear. Kane Footwear is changing the game you work out and recover with their Kane Revive, which is made with bounce back foam, made with Brazilian sugarcane technology. They did just restock all of their colorways for these next couple of months in 2024, so head to the link in our bio today before they're gone to get a pair of the most comfortable shoes you will ever own. All right, we got to talk about the LA Kings. I know we just talked about them at length last week with Morgan, but things have gone from bad to worse. And
there have been some developments for sure.
And when I say that, that's me sugarcoating things a little bit here, because the Kings have lost 14 of their last 16 games.
Yeah.
There's been two quotes that came out that I really want to highlight here. Drew Doughty, legendary Kings defenseman, has, been the backbone of that franchise for so long.
2-time Cup champ now, right?
Yep, gold medalist, all that, Hockey Canada shebang. But he says, we got guys in this room too worried about themselves and worried about their points. You don't really see hockey players say stuff like that. Normally, you
No.
would see something that says we need to focus, get back to basics, and,
Yeah.
get pucks deep or something like that.
No,
So,
he's trying to get through to
yeah,
certain people, or perhaps a certain somebody specifically on that roster.
yeah.
Cough,
Wonder
cough.
who.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, most
Yeah.
likely, if I had to speculate. But
1000% as his fantasy manager, I can agree. But my favorite quote of the year, maybe my favorite hockey quote of all time,
it's
because
good.
it's
It's
something I have said myself
about the
multiple
Caps a
about the
million times.
Caps
Yes.
so many
Yeah.
times, is LA Kings head coach Todd McClellan saying the stupidity that went into this loss is beyond explainable.
And his face when he's saying it is so good too. Like but he's like, I don't even know what the hell to
Yeah.
say anymore.
And it's you know it because you're a Caps fan. It's like the amount of times that like I've watched the third period where it's like, all right, 4-2 against the Minnesota Wild, this game's in
Yeah,
the bag.
right.
Then like
You find a way to
hooking
lose,
penalty,
yeah,
turnover in the neutral zone, like just it I
yeah.
feel for the Kings fans so much right now because
I do too.
I'm gonna stick by what I said last week with Morgan. It is a good hockey team that's not playing well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there were people in the comments saying excuse me, saying what happened to I mean, saying this was a good hockey team not that long ago. What happened here? Like what? So I don't know if it's, again, we talked about it with Morgan. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if they just got to have a fucking talking to with PLD, or if there's other guys that are also grouped into that category of being too self-centered or whatever it is. But players only meeting, you name it, of the cliche things that get done to try and fix a hockey team, something's going to happen.
Is it like, I mean, is this too late to fire your coach? I know we just had
It kind of might be.
we just had one a week ago, but it's
I
crazy
know,
to think
but
that I'm saying that.
I kind of am of the camp that it is. Especially, it's one thing if you're a team that you're kind of like, I don't know if we'll make the playoffs, let's just fire a coach and find out or whatever. This team, it would be so stupid if they didn't make the playoffs like that.
Yeah.
And they know that. They've got to know, okay, we cannot, whatever we do, we can't just straight up fucking miss after the
They
way
can't
we
do
started
nothing.
and the way that they've spent money last offseason and stuff like that. Yeah, they have to be careful about how they address this situation, because I think an over panicking about it could make things worse, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think, this is something that obviously I'm sticking by the fact that this team needs to address problems at the deadline. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
We know that.
Goalies, for sure.
Goalies, and I mean, we could say that about 12 teams entering this deadline, but really with this team, it's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, outside of goaltending, what else would you do here? Would you do something bottom six, top six, or would you look at D? I mean,
I don't know. D, I guess they could use a little help. I don't know that
maybe a little bit, but I think a lot of those guys are solid.
they are. I'm trying to think let me look at their
I'm a big Matty Roy truther. He's been on my fantasy team for 3 seasons now. He's the epitome of what you would think of for a steady Eddie defenseman. I mean, depending on what their cap situation looks like, obviously the Dubois thing is a problem. You just signed that guy for 8 seasons. I think there would be a decent amount of panic.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. The third line in general does not pass my third line test. Daily Faceoff right now has it as Carl Grundstrom, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Jared Anderson Dolan. That's not a Stanley Cup winning third line.
No, definitely not. Grundstrom, every now and then will show flashes of brilliance, but
I actually like their fourth line more. Trevor Lewis, Alex Turcotte, Kaliev.
Yeah, I did.
Again, it's probably not exactly this, but
did just call Turcotte up recently from the A. I loved that move. I don't really understand the thought process with him going down, but obviously,
we did say that there's also Arvidsson, who should be back soon. That'll give him a boost. Byfield, I think, is dealing with something right now. I want to say he's day to day or something like that. So hopefully that's not a big problem. But
But I
Yeah,
think we
honestly, I'll tell you what, we just talked about teams turning it on after this break and stuff. I don't think that the All-Star game could have come at a better time for the Kings. Just freaking
no.
everybody get the hell out of here, go clear your head, go jump in the water, hit some golf balls, whatever it is you're going to do, spend time with family, come back, reset, ready to rock and roll, and let's lock it down and go win 10 of 15 to start out or something like that.
For sure. I think if you're the LA Kings, you just hit like a checkpoint in a video game or got like an extra heart or
Yeah.
something
No, you
because
got
this
bailed out a little bit.
big time. So hopefully they can put it together come the postseason because I think you and I are in agreement that would be a fun team to have do like a deep playoff run or something.
Yes, I would love to see that.
Let's get to a couple suspensions. So 2 suspensions this week, both of them for chicken wings or elbowing. Let's go ahead and start with the one in New York. Jacob Trouba got 2 games for elbowing the Golden Knights. Philip or Pavel Dorofoyev. Say
Yeah,
Pavel, right?
I think that's right.
Okay,
That sounds right.
because we're accurate with names on the show.
Oh yeah.
So Trouba was not penalized for the play. Dorofeyev was unable to return, and then Trouba gets 2 games subsequently. What were your thoughts on that one?
This one was weird. The other one I have a much more decisive standpoint on, which we'll get to in a moment. But I mean, Trouba obviously repeat offender. He's been sussied a couple times, right?
Yeah, and a couple times within the past year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I think part of it is that for sure. I am kind of surprised there wasn't a penalty on the play. I guess 2 games feels right. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't more given he is a repeat offender personally. But I'm not like terribly upset that it's only 2 games. What were your thoughts?
No, I think we could have. If this was a situation where he doesn't have like a recent history, I feel like we're probably looking at like an elbowing minor and a 1-game suspension.
Yeah.
But because it's Jacob Trouba, I feel like we would probably be looking at a 2-minute elbowing minor and like a 3 or 4 game suspension.
Yeah, it's kind of what I expected.
So it's interesting. I mean, we can talk, until the cows come home about what DLPS is doing, but
Oh my God. Yeah.
we'll go ahead and do that now when it comes to the next one. So the Brendan Gallagher situation. So he got 5 games for his hit on Adam Pelech. So Gallagher's 31, known for being a pest, but this is his first suspension of his NHL career, which I was shocked by. I could have sworn
because he is just a piece of work to play against.
Could have sworn this guy had at least one in there.
He's definitely been like thrown out before, I want to say, like, and he's kind of walked that line of like doing everything else but getting suspended.
Yep.
Couple 5-minute majors in his career, I would imagine. But this was
I have a great quote from our buddy Nick Bowens about this situation. He says, Gallagher's like that one kid we all played against that just looks like he's skating uphill and his whole personality is being a shithead.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, he nailed it. I mean, this elbow to me is about as bad as it gets. Like that.
This was a chicken wing. Like this was a bingo wing right to the face.
It was just a gutless play. He's like, it's a drive-by too. He's not even like in a position where it makes sense to hit him cleanly. Like he already got rid of the puck. It isn't going to do anything other than take Gallagher himself out of the play to make contact with him. Like the fact that he just like there was no need to hit him at all on that play. And then he just freaking clotheslines him with an elbow, like right to the face. It was bad. And it looked really intentional too. There was no like awkwardness to it of like, oh, he was like turning and his elbow caught him. It like literally looks like he looks at him and like it's like a guy like sticking your leg out to trip somebody as they walk by or something like that. Like it's literally like, gotcha, bitch. Like
it was dirty, it was chippy, it was greasy. Dean, friend of the program, Big Islanders guy, was texting me and I was doing my nightly ritual of bouncing between hockey games, whichever one looks good or is close or is not, in a commercial break. And basically nothing was going to get me to put on a Montreal Canadiens New York Islanders game until I got the text saying massive elbow, you've got to look at this. And I'll be honest, I was like, oh, okay, like, are we talking like in the corner? And then I saw it and I was like, whoa, this is bad. And I thought we were looking at a little bit more than 5 games here. I'm going to be honest. I thought we were looking at maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think if he had gotten sussied before, which I thought he had, it would have been. But I guess since it's his first 5, sure. I mean, 5 is still a lot. So
It's, I think, like the 3rd heaviest suspension this season.
yeah,
We had the Shane Pinto 41 game thing. We
right,
had
right.
the David Perron 6 games.
Mm.
And then this one. And I don't think there was one over like 3 games last season.
God, I can't even believe the Pinto thing was this season. That feels like so long ago.
Right.
That's so funny. Well, fuck Brendan Gallagher. Anyway.
Anyways, moving on. I don't think Brendan Gallagher handled that in the best way, but the Coyotes and Panthers decided to handle things in the best way they knew how, with their most recent matchup last week. That was what, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. So this is the first time these two teams have met since the whole Nick Cousins, Jason Zucker incident. And within the first 7 seconds of the game, we had 2 fights at center ice. So I want to hear your thoughts, first of all, on how this was handled, and then about this whole sort of like, I don't even want to call it staged, but just like the right off the bat, okay, we're going to sort this out kind of stuff.
I like when that happens. I liked when it happened with the Caps and the Rangers a couple of years back. I think it's the right way to go about it when there's beef from a prior game. Just get it out of the way right away. Otherwise, more guys are just going to get hurt usually. Doing it this way kind of lets everybody on both sides know that like something will be done about any type of like fuckery that occurs. Without making the entire game about that, because you still have a hockey game to play. Both teams still want to win the game, want to get points in the standings. And quite frankly, the coaches are probably going to be pissed if you spend the whole game like trying to get revenge with like chippy hits and whatever. So to me, usually it's even a coach that'll address it and say something like, listen, I'm not stupid. I know what happened last game. You guys do what you got to do, but focus on the hockey game, like, which is basically them saying, if you're gonna do something, get it the fuck out of the way, get it out of your system, and then let's go win the game. So,
and I think that's the best way to handle this in this situation. I had to explain to someone who is not a hockey fan last week, like, why is fighting in the game? And I was like, this is here so this game can police itself. This game moves at 100 miles an hour. Stuff is going to get missed. Stuff's not going to get called. This is, the safety valve. This is the system of checks and balances in this league here. And I think you nailed it. They said, let's settle this now, then we'll play the hockey game. And I think that's a great way to look at it, because then what you avoid is guys getting two-handed, guys getting, cross-checked in the face or the mouth or the head, guys trying to line someone up, either up against the boards or in center ice and then mistiming and catching them high or catching them late or catching them in the back. Let's just go ahead and rip this Band-Aid off and do it right now.
And the grudge doesn't go away. I mean, the ensuing game is still probably more physical than your typical run-of-the-mill hockey game between two teams that have no beef together, but it's at least like hopefully clean for the most part after that. Did Nick Cousins even have to fight anybody?
Probably not.
That's what I hate the most about this shit, because that guy is such a fucking loser, and the way he went about all that shit that started this in the first place, which we talked about on the pod when it went down, was just so lame. So whatever.
Gotta answer the bell, man.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And then when it's time, you can't just flop on the ice and try to win an Oscar.
No. And I think you made a great point about, the Caps and Rangers thing was very similar to this. They had a game, wait about a month, got another one, here we go.
Yep.
If it's a situation where we're going to be doing this whole, like, every face-off is going to be, someone's going to be trying to drop the gloves, that's a little bit much. But if we're just going to do this right off the bat at center ice.
And that Caps Rangers one did last a little longer. I think for the first 5 or so minutes of the game, it was kind of like every other face-off, 2 new guys were dropping the mitts. There's a funny photo of all of them in the penalty box that some of you will remember. Just
for sure,
box loaded up, nowhere left to sit, kind of thing. But
I think that's also
like a predetermined rivalry that goes even deeper than just that incident.
There
I
was
don't
some
think the
old beef
Panthers
there.
and Coyotes really have much history besides this. So
No, not at all. I did see a lot of stuff, and I had someone who was, not exactly a hockey fan ask me, they were like, why do they stage it like this or make it a spectacle? And I was sort of like, look, like this isn't staged. This is almost the purest form of this. These two teams have just been feeling this way for the past month, and they decided, hey, it's time to go. And they probably said to each other at the face-off circle for the first time, like, hey, we're going now.
it could have even been discussed during warmups or something like that. Like you skate
Exactly.
past a guy on the red line and you're just looking at him. Sometimes it's as simple as just a nod or eye contact during warmups, and you're like, fuck, I have to fight that guy at the beginning of
Also,
this game.
shout out to the coaches, because the coaches get just as pissed off about this
Oh, yeah.
shit as the players or anyone else.
Yep.
When was the last time you saw Ryan Lomberg take a center ice game starting opening face
Exactly.
off?
No, yeah, they know what they know. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, love that. Hope we get to see a bit more of that. Let's go ahead and move into what you've all been waiting for this episode, and that is our discussion on the Washington Capitals. So we've talked about the Caps ad nauseum, I would say, for the past 3 or 4 episodes, just about what's going on, what they need to do. My question to you is a playoff position salvageable at this season? And if so, what do they need to do to get there with the deadline coming up?
So we've dropped, I think, is it 3 straight now or 4 maybe even?
Right. That loss against the Avs should count as about 6, but
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. God, that Stars game on Saturday would have been a really nice one to get. It was sick that they battled and got a point out of it, but man, that would have been a really nice way to end things right before the break if we were able to actually win that one OT. But alas, here's what I'll say. I think much like I've already discussed about the All-Star break with all teams in the NHL, for the Caps, it's going to come down to what happens the first 2 weeks after the All-Star break. When we come back, our first, I don't know, 5 to 7 games or so, if they drop 4 or more of those games, of those first 5 to 7 back, it's probably time to just start looking at next season. I mean, you're in a position now where if you can't come back and go on a little bit of a run, it's not going to happen. So to me, that's what it kind of comes down to. I don't think right now I can tell you whether or not we need to buy or sell or focus on next year or focus on this year. I do think there's a world where we could make the playoffs, make a little bit of noise. I do think it would take some acquisitions at the deadline to probably make that actually happen. I don't know if that's the way it'll go down, just because, like I said, if we come back from this break, drop a few more in a row, it's probably time to just give up for the season, for lack of a better way to put it.
No, I agree. And I think there's a point to be made that, like, hey, if they're not going to get a playoff spot this year, go get another top 10 draft choice this
For
year.
sure.
Oh my God. Like, that's a no-brainer to me.
I mean,
I
one of the
will
guys
say,
we got last year, Ryan Leonard, people are already saying he could be ready if he wants to play NHL minutes next season. So, I mean, if you can get another guy like that,
right.
boom, in 1 year, he's magically ready, do it.
I totally agree with what you said about the first, 5, 6, 7 games coming out of the All-Star break. That's basically going to make or break the Washington Capitals' year, is how many of those games they win. I was thinking about this the other day. The Caps team that went into that postseason berth, their last postseason berth, against that Boston Bruins team where they had Samsonov, Vanacek, and Craig Anderson in net. I think this Caps team is much better than that Caps team. I think
For
that
sure.
Caps team made the playoffs. I don't know how. And watching all their playoff games, it was very evident that team had no business being there. But
Yeah.
I do think that this Capitals team is in a much better position than that one is. I definitely think that if they're still within 10 points of a wild card spot come the deadline in the Metro, they can make that up.
Yeah. The tough part is the schedule is not kind to us. So we're
No,
talking
it's
about
not.
we're talking about those first 5 to 7 games for them after the break. Well, let's look at them real quick. They come back Tuesday, February 6th. They host the Canadiens, and that's about as easy as it's going to get for a little while, because after that they play the Panthers in Florida, then the Bruins in Boston, then they host the Canucks, and then they host the Avalanche.
Great.
So it's
So like 4 of the best teams in the NHL in
yeah.
like 5 games. Yeah.
And the easy one is the first one back, and we all know what happens with the Caps when they haven't played in like 10 days. So
Yep.
that one's almost an automatic loss in my head, even though it's the Canadians. Yeah, it's really going to be a difficult February. I really don't. There's 2 Habs games in the month of February, and other than that, it's all teams that are going to make the playoffs or definitely could make the playoffs.
Love that. So we've talked a little bit about this team needing top 6 goal scoring or just any kind of goal scoring.
Yeah.
Are there any players out there that could be potential trade targets in your opinion for this team?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it on here recently. Elias Lindholm I think that's a home run of a fit for the Caps. Whether or not we could actually make that happen, I'm not sure. I also don't know if Calgary will part with him because based on their situation, that's going to matter too. That's kind of another team in limbo right now where like they could make the playoffs. They very well could be selling though at the deadline too. So not sure how that one would go. Canucks have some guys that might get moved. I think Kuzmenko, his name has kind of been tossed around a little bit. I think there was another one I was thinking about, and now I'm blanking. But those are probably the first 2 that come to mind if we're looking for some little bit of an offensive jolt in the system there. That being said, I'd like to see Pacioretty get going a little bit. Mantha, I think he's got 16 or so goals now. I fully expect him to get to 25. Oshie has been red hot in the last.
Yep, that's been great to see.
Really hope that keeps up and that he stays healthy. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely need it because Mantha and Dylan Strome can't do everything offensively, and that's basically been the MO for this team so far this year.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Let's go ahead and wrap up our discussions with some Jersey talk. It wouldn't be an Empty Betters episode without some Jersey talk. Yeah. Let's be real. So the 4 new Stadium Series jerseys have been released. Those are for the Devils, the Islanders, the Flyers, and the Rangers. What were your thoughts on these Stadium Series jerseys?
I love the Flyers one. The only thing I will say about the Flyers, I have one critique for the Flyers jersey, and that's that the number placement on the arms is a little weird. And
so weird.
They're a little too big and they're in a strange spot. Other than that, though, I really like it. I really like the striping on the back of the jersey, how it kind of like leads into the arms. I think it's well done. That doesn't always work. I think it does in this case. I like the white jersey.
I think you're spot on with like the number placement for the whatchamacallit for the Flyers. I don't necessarily dislike the Devils one. It just seems kind of meh to me.
It leaves a little something to be desired for me personally.
I was just curious, fine. Like, they're going a different direction with it. That's fine. Not necessarily would have been the, design I would have chosen for that team, but okay, yeah. I can kind of get it. The Rangers, I like, once again, with like every other jersey you try, I've got issues with it, but
I don't know how I feel about this one. You first glance at it and you're like, okay, it's decent. And
I don't love NYR as a diagonal.
I don't either. And I also, there's something about it that's a little too like NBA or something. Like it's a little too like, I don't know if flashy is the right word, but it's kind of like, I don't know.
Little too Broadway for you?
Yeah. Or like it's a little too, like it almost, I don't want to say there's too much going on because it's a relatively simple jersey, but there's just something about it that for the Rangers, I think is a little too fireworky. Like there's just a little too much like jazz hands to it. You know what I mean? Like they're just, it's like, no, the Rangers are supposed to have a really clean look and like simple, blue, red, white. It's a little too like Bush League or a little too like Globetrotters for me or something like that. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else, but
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I also don't love, and I've said this a thousand times on this show, I don't love faking the old time hockey look.
Yes, that's
So
okay.
like,
Yes, I
and
completely agree with that.
I know with the Rangers, everyone's gonna say, "Oh, an original 16," but like just randomly going with cream,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna have a little bit of an issue with that. Uh, do you have a favorite out of all of these?
Flyers,
Okay. Do you have a least favorite?
uh, Islanders.
This is just the stupid Pred Smashville, like
Yes, yeah,
slightly redone. And they did this like where they slightly changed the homework answers with their reverse retro last time,
yes,
anyways. It's
I
like this
know. It's
franchise hates two things: looking good and
yep.
scoring goals.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's bad. And Isles too. I feel the same way I do about the Caps jerseys that said Caps. It's our nickname. It doesn't need to be on the sweater. Like, put the team's name on the sweater. Everyone can call them the Isles. That's fine. We don't need a jersey that says it. And we definitely don't need a jersey that says it in like enormous font with nothing else happening on the jersey.
Yeah, it like Islanders would have looked so much cooler on there versus
Yeah.
Isles. To me,
Yeah.
it's weird.
They have had so many just ass special edition jerseys. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Um, not the only New Jersey to get released. Let's just go ahead and talk about that for a second. We did have one alternate, a very highly anticipated alternate get leaked, and that was the Sharks. What are your thoughts on that?
So I really like I'm a sucker for a black jersey, and I'm a sucker for most Sharks jerseys. I love their colors of like the black and teal. I like the shade of teal being used on this one. I like the striping. I think the jersey as a whole is a really clean look. I'm not sure I love the logo, to be honest. That one just screams shoulder patch logo, and blowing it up and having it be the main logo on the front is a little like weird to me. I get that they're just trying to do something different, but when you have one of the best logos in sports, I know the old one was way better, but even still, the shark with the hockey stick, it's awesome. I think you should just stick with that, or better yet, like I just said, go back to the old one, which was also sick. Um, this logo is just very like alternate logo on the shoulder to me, which it'd be like if the Orioles had a jersey that had the big circle with the Maryland flag in it or something. It's like that's a sweet logo, but it belongs tiny and on my shoulder, not
Yes,
massive and on the front.
it belongs tiny and on my Land Shark bottle cap is how I have to put this. Yeah.
Right. I also I saw the full kits and I do like the socks a lot. I'll add
Yeah,
that.
love the arm striping on this,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially like as it tapers going down towards like the
And I
forearm and
fully
stuff.
expect them to look good on the ice too, because I think the full kit is nice. It's just the logo itself could be different. But
That, I mean, you nailed it. That hockey team, A, has done nothing but produce home run hits ever since coming into the NHL. And any black jersey that they do is just like chef's kiss
yeah,
because A, it's a black hockey jersey, which looks sick. Two, there's a giant shark fin on it.
yeah,
I totally agree that the head would have been better. This is 100% a shoulder patch that I think they were just trying to put on the chest to
right.
um, switch it up. I saw the
Yeah, like I
shoulders
saw
say like Northern California, which I love.
yes, I like
Hey,
that too. Yep.
separate yourself from the Ducks and the Kings. As a former resident there, I do love to see that. So that's awesome. But yeah, I agree. I would have loved to see a better center logo on the front.
Yeah, like you said, just do the head. I took one look at this jersey and I said, "So no head?" Question mark.
Exactly.
But anyway, they'll
Yeah.
they're not terrible and they will look good on the ice.
They'll definitely look good on the ice. The Sharks won't, but they will. Let's go ahead and move on to some NCAA action. But before we do, I think Mac has a word for you guys about Prop Tracker, or I do.
Yeah, I think you do. I think
Okay,
you got
cool.
the word about that.
So if you haven't heard, you're going to hear now. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding out outlier bets for the NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or catches. Go to proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters to try a free month of our Android or iOS app. And as a reminder, tracker is spelled TRACKR. College hockey, did you catch any over the weekend?
I did not. I was too busy sweating my balls off, ready for what I thought would be an epic Ravens game, and that's all I could think about all weekend. And then now it's all I can think about in a bad way. So
Yeah, that definitely did not go well. Not the way that you and I wanted that to go, but we did have some amazing college puck over the weekend. We had a great series between number 1 and number 2 BU and BC. First time ever that those two have been 1 and 2 and gone up against each other. So BC, number 2 BC wins both games. First one at home and then goes on the road, 3 miles down the damn street to kick the crap out of BU in game 2. So that was awesome to see. They will actually meet again, the top 2 college hockey teams in the country, a week from today, the day we're recording this, which is Monday, January 29th, in the first round of the Bean Pot. TD Garden, 8 p.m. should be unreal. I would fully expect that one to be on ESPN Plus. That's what it was on last year. But there's basically going to be like 14 NHL ready players playing college hockey. So
BC is just so much cooler than BU to me. And I do have a little bit of bias because my mom went to BC, but in general, I feel like I don't know. I look at these two teams, regardless of like I'd say this now, but I'd also say it back in like 2010. And it's just a more likable team to me, like in general.
like a more likable franchise almost, or like
yeah,
a
yeah.
school.
Yes, exactly. Like there's just to me, it's one of those things where I feel like anyone that goes to BU, roots for BU, but then everyone else wants BC to win, even the people that have no dog in the fight. Like it just seems like they are inherently the like good guys versus like the bad guys. I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone else feels that way, but that's how I see it.
I totally agree. The only thing discounting me like from like agreeing 100% is the fact that Sparty beat BC in the Frozen Four championship game in '07 with Brian Boyle and like
Oh
Kevin
yeah,
Rooney and everyone. So like having to watch that team, I kind of hated them, but
sure.
it's a
Hey, but
no-brainer
at
with
least you won.
yeah, exactly. It's a no-brainer now, especially with Ryan Leonard playing on that team and
Yep,
all the star power they have. I mean, from
totally.
their entire first line was like the second line for the American World Junior team. So that's so fun to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up with some trivia. And I think you actually do have a word for us this time from Elwood's.
I do. Yep. Just a reminder to support your local dive bar and have a beer at Elwood's Liquor and Tap, home of the Pizza Luge. Located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee on Water Street, this 70s inspired bar has a little something for everybody. From daily happy hour rotating taps, free birthday perks, and a 4-season patio, a good time is always around the corner at Elwood's. And with the full NHL package plus TV screens inside and out, hockey fans can watch any game anytime. Don't leave your dogs at home. They're also a dog friendly bar. We'll see you down at Elwood's. All right, I got a good one for trivia here.
I just now realized I'm kind of on an island here, so this is either going to go
Yeah,
really well or really bad.
I was thinking about that earlier. I think you should be okay.
Okay.
This is kind of a blockbuster question here.
Okay, good.
It's not going to be like Kevin Schlempo in overtime on this date in 1972 or some shit. But I am going to be vague because I do think this could be obvious if I give you too much detail. So we'll jump right in. On this day, January 29th, in the year 1999, rookie defenseman blank blank scored his first NHL goal and added an assist as well to lead his team in a 4-4 tie against the visiting Phoenix Coyotes. That's what I'm going to give you to start.
Who is Nicholas Lidstrom?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I like that though as a first guess. I also am glad you didn't get it on the first answer because that would have been lame.
Okay. Were you worried that I was going to get it on the first
Kind
answer?
of, maybe. I mean, I feel like you know a lot of random hockey trivia, and sometimes you just pull one out. But
Nicholas Cronwall.
nope.
Okay. Okay, so visiting Phoenix Coyotes, 1999.
Yep.
It was a tie, which makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, same. And he was a rookie this year, so and it was first NHL goal, grabbed an assist as well.
Left shot or right shot defenseman?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think right, but let me confirm.
And I'm assuming this is one of the things where it's like, if you give me the team, I'm going to get it in like 3 guesses.
I would think so.
Okay.
He is. Drum roll, please, for the slow internet. Oh, he is left-handed. I was wrong.
Yeah.
He did. I'll tell you, he didn't retire all that long ago. Had a nice lengthy career and played for 4 different teams, I think.
Wow. It's not Brian Rafalski, is it?
Nope.
Okay.
More obvious than that.
Okay.
And I'll give you another little hint. I said visiting Phoenix Coyotes, they had to make a solid trek over to the Eastern Conference for this one.
Okay.
Was not close by.
You said like more obvious, and then I don't know why my brain just started going through a list of like obscure Capitals defensemen.
Well, he may or may not have spent a hot minute in Washington.
Scotty Stevens?
Nope.
Okay.
I was comfortable saying that because there's a handful of big name defensemen from that were rookies in that era. That
so East Coast team, a little bit of time in DC. Sergei Gonchar.
I thought you were gonna say that, but that's not it. But that's kind of why I was comfortable saying he spent time in Washington, because like I said, there's a handful of them that fit the bill.
Okay, give me division for the team.
Like
current division for the team. I'm sure it's changed since
for the team that he scored the rookie goal with.
Yeah.
Metro.
Okay.
Now they're in Metro. Yeah. I don't know what they were calling it back then.
Right, the Patrick division or some shit like
that.
Yeah. Okay. Fuck, this is tough.
SpongeBob and Patrick division.
Right. Yeah. Oh God, I wish.
You're gonna like.
I know I'm gonna lose my mind.
There's probably a lot of steering wheel punchers by now.
Yeah, it's not Shelley.
Nope.
It's not Leachy.
Nope.
I feel like I gotta think younger than that. So it's not Lidstrom, it's not Cronwall. All right, give me the team. I got nothing.
What if I told you that he retired after what?
Chara.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. There we go. Attaboy.
There we go. Took a little bit. We got there.
I think the hard part about that question is I always forget he started that early, because he retired in 2022, which was what I was about to tell you. But it's even though I do know this, it's crazy to me to remember that he started in 99.
And was it did he start with the Sens or was it with the Islanders?
It was with the Islanders.
Okay.
Yep. They drafted him and he was there very briefly because the Islanders did that stupid thing that they did with Luongo where they were like, this guy isn't anything. And then he was definitely something.
Yeah, but Rick DiPietro, he's the guy we want.
Right. So then he went to Ottawa, then Boston, and then as we know, to Washington, and then finished out one final year where it all started on Long Island.
That's right. Well, that was a good one. I'm glad I finally got there.
Yeah,
it's definitely tougher when you don't have someone else get
bouncing other ideas off. Yeah, no doubt.
Process of elimination there. So
hats off to you. That's difficult.
Yeah, we'll have a much better showing for you all next time. But Mac, unless you've got anything else, I think we can wrap up here.
I'm good. Everybody try not to go insane with a couple days off of hockey here, and we'll see you back after the break.